If you committed a murder in 1930 and they found out that you committed the murder today, it doesn't matter if you're 102 years old, you're going to get prosecuted for that murder. Some things have a statute of limitations on them, some things don't, different crimes. So when you have something that goes unsolved, it may be a cold case, which means they're just, if something comes, they'll look into it. Otherwise, they've done everything they can. But it doesn't just disappear. With the news lately, I feel like there's some things that kind of just disappeared. So I'd like to go back to those. They're a little bit darker in topic, but they're recent enough that I just don't understand why they disappeared out of the news. There was an extremely famous instance of a pedophilia ring by a guy named Jeffrey Epstien. I'm sure everyone knows who he is, but I'm still going to talk a little bit about that. He apparently worked for some form of government agency. He became a billionaire and no one knows how. He was wealthy enough to become a billionaire and have enough money to buy an island. An island. He became very, very wealthy and started having parties. It was discovered that he was holding these parties, investigated, and dropped. And some people say that's because he was untouchable because of whatever he was doing with whatever agency he was doing. This goes back to my last, or one of my last videos where I talked about these agencies. They should not be more powerful than the oversight mechanisms within our government. Because this guy was above the law. And there are some crimes where you shouldn't be able to just do and get away with because you're a valuable asset to an unelected bunch of bureaucrats in an agency, which would be FBI, CIA, whatever. Whatever you're providing should not give you free passes to do crimes. I've never understood diplomatic immunity, where you're a government official of another country, you come here and you have immunity from our laws. Never understood that. That's something similar to what was going on with Epstein, because they knew who he was, they knew what he was doing, and he was allowed to roam free and do it. And he was ruining lives. Not just the victims, the direct victims, but their family members. He was selling young girls and human trafficking young girls. Now, his partner, who was recently, I think in July of 2022, convicted and sentenced to 20 years, and she's in her 60s, so she was sentenced for the rest of her life.
A unanimous jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstien.
Now, he was going to be prosecuted and then eventually sentenced as well.
If you believe you are a victim of this man, Jeffrey Epstein, or you have evidence or information relating to the conduct alleged in the indictment unsealed today, we want to hear from you. Please call 1-800-CALL-FBI.
But he very oddly died in his prison cell, supposedly having committed suicide. But the cameras were just so happened to be off. The guard just so happened to be asleep and didn't check on him. Very, very weird circumstances. Could be 100% true, but the circumstances surrounding it made it much, much more likely to happen. So he killed himself. The woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, survived and was secured and not allowed to kill herself if she would have. I don't know if she would have. But she has knowledge, direct knowledge, first-hand knowledge. She was there. She was the one who was helping this guy commit these crimes. So we don't have the contacts. And she had contacts. And they talked about her contacts. And they made it public. Hey, this woman knows stuff. Not just about what he was doing, but who he was doing it with. And apparently there was some really, really high level people in government and celebrities and just big names who were partaking on this guy's island with children. And we're supposed to protect children because they can't protect themselves. That's why there's laws that don't allow kids to just do whatever they want, and there's laws that create responsibility for adults over children. They're not capable of making most decisions. This is one of the reasons why I believe there is a push to give kids these decision-making abilities, despite civilization's entire history of saying, no, kids they don't have that capacity. So now we have a push to allow children to say, hey, I think I'm going to be a girl, or hey, I think I'm going to be a boy, or hey, I reject both and I think I'm going to be non-binary, and all these weird terms that they've come up with. They're doing this to normalize bad behaviors of adults. This has nothing to do with the kids themselves. And when they're able to do this normalization, it will allow these creeps, weirdos, and psychopaths to do what they do to kids and take the responsibility from a civilization standpoint off of the bad people and say, well, to consenting people, not to consenting adults. And it's a big master plan, and I don't know if I could say there's a conspiracy to devise it, but I can say that it's clearly being pushed, in my opinion, because that story disappeared and we don't know who else was doing what Epstein was doing. We know for a fact he was having these parties. Why aren't the other people who committed heinous crimes against children being pursued? She has a contact list. You know who the people were because you had to fly to get to the island. You can't just jump on a plane and have planes flying around with people on them with no manifest. What are we doing? What is the federal government doing? What are we protecting that's more important than kids? What operations was he helping with that is more important or take precedent over protecting children? You can't say, well, they're adults now, because they're damaged adults and their families were damaged, as I said before, by perverts. So why did the story disappear? I'm genuinely curious as to why whoever these high-powered people and political people and celebrities were, who were going to the island, and a lot of them supposedly frequenting the island. What are we doing? Why aren't they being prosecuted no differently than any other pedophile who does something wrong?
Benetton, a high fashion group exploiting children through highly provocative and sexual poses in order to advertise their new fashion line. Now, since then, they have deleted and completely scrubbed all of these images off of their website and social media, but not to worry, we've got receipts. Let's dive into this. In what world do we advertise underwear for little girls posed like this? How many absolute scumbags stood by on set and watched this little boy be exposed in this manner? Let's definitely not forget how rampant pedophilia is in the furry community, which, okay. More than anything in this one, I'm just curious why the adults have pants on but the child is standing in underwear. Of course, to promote high fashion, you want the little girl with pride socks and a pride flag in her hair. Why are we promoting gay culture to children? Children are not sexual beings. They are not capable of being gay. I also came across a very strange trend in these photos, which is the hand placement when the kids are holding hands, because the poses are not an accident. They're set up like this for a reason. There were tons of these. These are just 2 examples that I pulled off. This is probably the worst one, and I almost hesitate to even show it because the kid looks so unwell in it, but I want you to understand. What is this promoting? Because this is not advertising underwear. At the end of the day, this is not high fashion. This is pedophilic behavior. This is the exploitation of innocent children. And while most of us probably do not shop high fashion, we can certainly let them know how we feel. They do have a very nice contact form right there on their website where we can send them a message. We can also continue standing up and protecting the children.
That just leads me to this Balenciaga thing that's happened in late November. You have a company, sorry it's raining, you have a company who put out some very strange, disgusting ads. And they were ads that had children in them with toys like a teddy bear or something like that in bondage. Doing adult themed ads with children in them. Why? What's funny about that? What's cute about that? What selling product would need that? This is really, really high-end products, apparently. I don't know. I don't buy stuff like that. I'm not into that. I didn't even know what the brand was until they started talking about this. But apparently a lot of stars either run ads with them or purchase their product or both. I don't know. It's high-end product. And over the campaign, in my opinion, to normalize pedophilia and sexualizing of children, it seems as if that was the plan. It seems as if they were going to put together this ad campaign for that target audience. And I just think that that's weird. I don't see a need to do that unless you support that. Advertising firms are very, 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 very smart. They know how to target their audience. It's what they do. They understand demos, they understand what appeals to them. There's no way you can accidentally post or make an ad or have a campaign that has children sexualized without knowing that that's what you're doing. It's not an accident. There's nothing to apologize for. You did it. At that point, it is what it is. We see what you're doing. We see what you did. Why would you apologize for it? I didn't mean to put a teddy bear in bondage. I didn't mean to take a specific court ruling on pedophilia or child pornography. I didn't mean to set that on the set. Everything on a photo shoot or in a photo shoot is very, very calculated and particular. You don't accidentally find a Supreme Court ruling and place that in an ad. Like, that's stupid. And anyone who would take that apology as sincere is naive, to say the least. It wasn't an accident. And when you look at the other work of the people behind that photo shoot, it should be pretty clear what they're doing. The question is, why is it allowed from a PR standpoint? Like, why wouldn't everyone say, oh, whoa, we got to get away from this? We saw him do it with a My Pillow guy. You can cancel him for being a conservative, but you can't cancel pedophiles for running a pedo campaign? I see where your priorities are. I see where you are.
Jamie Michelle is the founder of Gays Against Groomers and joins us tonight. Jamie, thanks so much for coming on. Do you find it striking that Balenciaga comes out with an ad campaign promoting pedophilia? I don't think anyone disputes that. And the media spend their time attacking anyone who's offended by the ad campaign. What is that?
Yeah, doesn't shock me anymore. You would think it would, but this is just a growing trend from, corporate America feeling comfortable pushing this and our community running cover for it. It's disturbing. Everything seems to be upside down. Obviously, the people that should be condemned are Balenciaga and, everybody that is behind this push to sexualize and indoctrinate and mutilate kids. At first the ad, it was shocking to see, but then, you think about it for another second or two and it all just makes sense. The floodgates seem to be open and people are just full steam ahead trying to attack and assault children, which is a red line for everybody. It should be. Well, you would think for everybody. For the majority of people it is. And that's why, there is such a strong visceral reaction coming out against it, just as much as there is in support of it. And I do love that you're saying, and I appreciate you for saying that not all of us in the gay community support this. It's actually quite the opposite. There's the fringe minority within our community that does, but they are so loud because they have the backing of every powerful institution in this country, as we're seeing. And we're doing everything we can to stop it.
But this is being justified in your name. You run a group called Gays Against Groomers. You watch television. Anyone who says a word is anti-gay, as if all gays are in favor of this. The implication is you're in favor of kiddie porn or sexualizing kids. It seems like a slur to me.
It is, and that's really, really upsetting to see because it's actually doing more harm to us. I want to be very clear that being anti-groomer and anti-child sexualization and mutilation is not anti-gay. It's not anti-LGBTQ. What is anti-LGBTQ, though? Right. It shouldn't have to be said.
The Ghislaine Maxwell thing and this Balenciaga thing show me that there is an active movement, and we know it anyway because, like I said, they're normalizing this stuff.
CDC is now urging teachers to adopt gender ideology in schools. Now, this is obviously very concerning, but I want to explain to you guys why it's so concerning to me. This is a picture of 7-year-old me dressed up as Princess Claire instead of Clark. As a child, I loved wearing girls' clothes. I wore makeup all the time, but thankfully, my parents reiterated the fact that I was a boy. My siblings would even call me Claire because of how much I liked to dress up in their clothes. And I distinctly remember questioning if I should be a boy, because I like everything that girls like. Why am I not a girl? I thank God that I grew up and understood that I was confusing my personality with my gender. I also thank God that my parents didn't hear this and rush me to the clinic to get put on puberty-blocking hormones. The truth is that young gay men are attracted to more feminine things. We don't know why, but that's just the case. And that's okay. It's not detrimental if a child wants to play with Barbies instead of Power Rangers. But this ideology is dangerous. It's targeting kids who are exactly like me.
California is normalizing this stuff with their laws. Lowering penalties of people getting caught doing these things. That's normalizing. That should raise red flags. It should. It doesn't. Clearly it doesn't, but what I'm saying is that it should. People should immediately say, whoa, why would you even write this law? What are you thinking? How is this even on your agenda? In this day and age, how is this even on anyone's agenda? Sexualizing minors? Like, why is that on any senator or House rep's agenda? And how does it get passed? Even in a local government, even California, the most liberal place in the country outside of maybe Oregon. Why wouldn't somebody say, hey, whoa, is this what you were elected to do? Does your constituency know about this? Because I'm sure there are a lot of parents who would not be okay with this. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's saying anything. I want to know the contact list of Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to see the black book. I would feel more secure, and I would like to know and go to sleep at night knowing that there are more pedophiles locked up and out of the pedophile business. I think that would be really good for the country. I think that would be really good for children. I think that would be really good news for everyone. Because normally, I would say, if there's one thing that unites Americans, it's protecting children. But now I'm at the point where I'm saying, well, do they really care? Do they really want to protect kids? Or Or do they just want your kids? Because that seems to be the new dividing line.